Good evening. My name is Felix Vargas. I'm a member of the Latino Coalition of the Tri-Cities, and I want to extend a very warm welcome to all of you who have joined us here this evening for this event, for this Candidates Forum. It's a bit early yet for a lot of people, and folks are getting off work, so we anticipate more folks will be joining us as we go into the evening. Let me just say that we are very proud to be co-hosting this event with the League of Women Voters. The purpose of a candidates forum such as this is twofold. First, we want to inform the community on issues at hand in which many community members have an interest. Secondly, we want to allow our candidates an opportunity to outline their positions and, of course, to bid for your vote, our vote. Now, the Latino Coalition and the League of Women Voters are nonpartisan stakeholders in this event. We want to make that very clear. We want to especially thank the City of Pasco and the Pasco Police Department and the Police Chief Bob Metzger for allowing us use of this great facility for the forum tonight. And with that, I want to now introduce the moderator for the forum this evening. Moderating this evening will be Mr. Mike Gonzalez. Now, Mike serves as the evening news anchor and assistant news director at KAPP, KView, the ABC affiliate in Central Washington. He was most recently the morning anchor at the NBC affiliate in Raleigh, North Carolina. Mike is an achiever. While there, he won an RTNDA award for an investigative piece on dangerous football helmets being worn by high schools across North Carolina. He started his career in Columbia, Missouri as an anchor and reporter at the NBC affiliate. Following that, he worked at the CBS affiliate in Lincoln, Nebraska as an anchor reporter, where he earned an AP award for Best News Series for a documentary. He moved on to Omaha, where he was a morning anchor reporter. And again, while there, he got another AP award for Best Breaking News Coverage. From Omaha, Mike came to Spokane, where he most recently served as the main evening anchor for the ABC affiliate. Some of you may have seen Mike on Dish Network back in 2012 when he hosted a Latin cooking show called En la Cocina, which is Spanish for in the kitchen. So as you can see, he's quite versatile in his work. Mike is married, has 3 children. With that, I'm very pleased to introduce the moderator for tonight's forum, Mr. Mike Gonzalez.
See, I wrote that introduction myself, so I tried to make it as good as I could, but gosh, it just makes me realize I've been in the news business a long time. I like to say I'm a lot older than I look, but I think that's going away. I can't use that joke anymore. But Felix, thanks so much. Good evening. As Felix said, my name is Mike Gonzalez. I'm the news anchor with KView Television here in Kennewick, Channel 42, also a member of the Latino Coalition of the Tri-Cities. On behalf of the Coalition, the League of Women Voters, Benton and Franklin Counties, City of Pasco TV, Richland City TV, we welcome you to this forum. We appreciate you guys coming and being involved in this civic process because we know really how important it is. Tonight's forum is being recorded to be replayed on Pasco TV. It's channel 191, Richland City TV. That's channel 192 and shared with charter stations around the area. So if you're not able to attend, obviously you can watch it there or you can re-watch this. They're also going to put this on YouTube as well. I would like to note that the Latino Coalition and the League of Women Voters do not support any of the candidates. In presenting the candidate forum, it's our objective, it's our opportunity for voters to come out, for you guys to be informed, and for us just to really present the issues. So we're taking no sides, we have no agendas here. Tonight, we'll be hearing from candidates who are seeking the positions of state representatives from the 16th District, both positions 1 and 2, and state representatives from the 9th District for position 1. And as you can see, the 5 candidates for position 1 in the 16th District are going to go first. We'll be using the following format. Each candidate is going to make a 2-minute opening statement. We will then move to a question and answer period. This will be a 1.5-minute time limit for their responses. All candidates will answer the same questions, alternating who goes first. We prepared the questions, but we're also taking written questions from the audience. So if you've got any good ones and you really are wanting to ask something, please do that. If you do submit a question, we ask that it's not too personal of a nature, or it's just not crazy, or, and you guys use your discretion. You guys are smart out there. So, you only get one question per person. So please be aware of that. And, in the previous candidate forum, we got some questions that were like 3-part, try to keep it as simple as you possibly can, because, they're written as well, so we've got to decipher them. So the easier you make it and the more clear you make it for us, the easier it'll be for them to answer, certainly. And upon conclusion of the questions and answers, each candidate will have 1 minute for a closing statement. As well, candidates, I want to point out our timer for you. She's going to hold up a sign when you have 15 seconds left to speak. There it is. Then she's going to throw up the stop sign. Now, you don't have to stop. You don't have to give her right away. But, try to close it out as quickly as you possibly can without stopping in the middle of your thoughts. So we want you to obviously complete your thoughts and don't want to delay you any way in that capacity. So let's begin by introducing the candidates running for state representative from the 16th District, Position 1. They're Alan Pomranning, William Bill Jenkin, Skylar Rude, Rebecca Francic, and Mary Ruth Edwards. And you may give them a round of applause if you'd like. And for consistency, the candidates are seated and will be addressed to begin in the order in which they filed to run for this office. So let's begin with Mr. Pomranning. Your opening statement, please.
Thank you, Michael. Am I on? Thank you. And thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you to the Latino Coalition and to you, the voters. I appreciate you being here tonight. It's a wonderful opportunity to explore our future. I have a lot of hope for the future of our state. I am happy to share with you how a qualified candidate can move us on a path forward. My name is Alan Pomranning, and I am proud to be the mayor of Walla Walla. I am a retired engineer. I am a certified professional project manager. I'm a certified municipal leader. I am a Rotarian and a husband, a father, and a grandfather. I'm about funding exceptional education without adding a state income tax. I will continue to create jobs in our area, in Eastern Washington, and in our state. I'll work with you to fix our roads, to fix our water systems, and to find ways to do that are economical and straightforward. In 2017, I will co-sponsor levy leveling legislation, that's a mouthful, to create a permanent solution for school funding. I believe strongly, I have kids in school, I believe strongly in exceptional education in our state. I will not support the 1% state income tax that's going to be proposed at the beginning of the session. I will co-sponsor legislation to reevaluate our governor's carbon tax. It's not really a carbon tax, it's a business tax. I am a leader with real plans, with many successful projects behind me, and I will take that same leadership to Olympia for you as your representative. I'll count on your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jenkin.
Yes, hello, I'm Bill Jenkin, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Latino Coalition for tonight's forum and all of you. First, a little bit about myself. I hold a BA in Business Management. I'm currently the president of the Prosser School Board. I'm a financial advisor, owner of Prosser Vineyard and Winery, and also Bill's Tasting Room, and several commercial properties in downtown Prosser. In addition to my elected position and businesses, I have been very involved in the community. I'm the district governor-elect for Rotary District 5060. I was the founding chairman for the Prosser Boys and Girls Club. I served the Prosser Chamber of Commerce as its president for 2 years. I'm also a board member for People for People. The reason I'm a candidate for this position is that I and others believe that experience matters. I live the issues, facing our communities every day. Our economy has been struggling for almost a decade. And as a small business owner myself, I can say with authority that we need to do more to support our job creators in our communities. We need to reduce the B&O taxes, which strangles the working capital of our small businesses, greatly reducing their chances of success. Our state needs to address our educational challenges without raising taxes. We need to work towards local control of our schools. We need to restore parental and student choice. Not all students want or need to go to a liberal arts college. Many students would thrive in the trades. Finally, we need to encourage our parents to take a much greater responsibility in their children's education. We should do more to support our local farmers. It's essential that we secure and strengthen our farmers' rights now and into the future. I'm married with 3 children and 2 grandsons. For my family and for yours, I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Jenkins, thank you. Mr. Rude.
Thank you to our sponsors for the opportunity to be here tonight, and thank you all of you for taking the time out of your schedules to be here. My name is Skylar. I was born and raised in Walla Walla. I'm 30 years old. I've lived there for about 27 years of that. I attended Walla Walla Community College for 2 years, and then got into the workforce in the insurance industry as an insurance agent. I most recently was Representative Walsh's legislative assistant. I worked in the legislature for the 2015 and 2016 sessions in that capacity, which was a very valuable learning experience. It's a fun, complex system that I enjoy working in tremendously. I've also been involved in the Republican Party locally in Walla Walla for over 10 years. I'm currently the state committee man for Walla Walla County, which is a member of the state organization that oversees the state party. I'm also a member of the county party executive board there. As far as legislative priorities, education is going to be the #1 issue facing the legislature this next session. And I believe that it's very important that the legislature focuses on outcomes when addressing education. It's not just a fiscal issue, but we need to make sure that our kids are graduating from high school. Washington State currently has about a 77% graduation rate, which is not acceptable to me. There are other states with a 90% graduation rate. So we need to be focusing on, as was previously mentioned, alternatives, vocational training, apprenticeship programs. I believe that's very important. Something that's very important to Pasco, which we've heard from the Pasco School District for the last 2 sessions, is an early learning center, which will be one of my priorities if elected. So it looks like I'm about out of time. I appreciate the opportunity. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you, Mr. Rude. Ms. Francic.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Francic, and I am running for the Washington State House, position #1 in the 16th Legislative District. This is what I have to offer you as a candidate. 19 years of fiscally responsible local government experience, over 17 years of direct working experience in the K-12 education system, and a solid grounding in agriculture, which is the #1 driver of Washington State's economy. Agriculture is the largest economic engine in Washington, and it is extremely important to our local economy. With my degree in agronomy and real field experience, I have a comprehensive understanding of the issues impacting this industry. I understand their water needs, I understand their transportation needs, and I understand their environmental issues. With 2 master's degrees, I currently work as a nationally board-certified teacher for Pasco schools. I know firsthand the issues that are facing educators, students, and taxpayers as we work to provide an education that prepares our students to be fully competitive in filling jobs that are created by Washington industries. Lastly, I have served as a Pasco City Council member for 19 years. I have a long history of collaborating with other public agencies to improve industrial opportunities in Walla Walla, Benton, and Franklin counties. Appointed by 2 governors, I represented our region on the Washington State Public Works Trust Fund Board and the Freight Mobility Strategic Investment Board. I have helped in that service to prioritize, fund, build roads, bridges, sewer, and water systems throughout our state. Our region has been the direct beneficiary of those projects, including Port of Pasco's Ainsworth Overpass, US 395 Hillsborough Road Interchange, 2 overpasses on Highway 12 near the Port of Walla Walla, the Walla Walla Myra Dent Road improvements, Prosser Wine Country Road, Benton County Pierrot Road Extension, and the 10th Avenue Bridge over Zintel Canyon. These projects have made our roads safer, ensuring that products and workers can move in a safe and efficient manner. If you believe this experience will benefit you, please vote for Rebecca Francic.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Latino Coalition for allowing me to participate tonight. I am Mary Ruth Edwards, a conservative, liberty-minded Republican and candidate for state representative in the 16th District, Position 1. I have a bachelor's degree in business and a master's degree in education. I serve as the only woman on the Prosser City Council. In addition, I teach first grade in the Prosser School District. Teaching is my second career, and I have been doing it for 11 years. As the state committee woman for the Benton County Republican Party, I am active in politics both locally and at the state committee level. I was a single mom for 20 years and successfully raised 2 grown children, and I am currently a grandma. I am also a Marine Corps veteran. I will be your voice in Olympia, committed to you and the right priorities: jobs, public safety, a first-class education for our children, cheaper health care, and well-maintained roads. Our taxes should not be funding the West Side agenda, but instead used for our highway projects, our agenda. I will work hard to protect our farms and our water rights. I staunchly support the Constitution, gun ownership, and private property rights. My campaign motto is lower taxes, less government, and more freedom. If we don't raise taxes or impose new ones, the people of the 16th District will have more money in their pockets, and our small business owners could afford to hire more people. Less government means keeping the government constrained by the U.S. and state constitutions as was originally intended. The USDA just told the Prosser City Council that we were not diverse enough and suggested potentially costly ways to remedy our lack of diversity. Why is a federal agency trying to influence local politics? It's not the government's job to try to influence politics. Education decisions are best left up to our local school boards. I will work to get Washington State away from the Common Core standards and back to local school board control. I will be a strong voice for business rights. In Seattle, we've already seen the negative effects on businesses and economy of a $15 minimum wage. So it's my goal to work with other like-minded statesmen and women to ensure lower taxes, less government, and more freedom for the people of Washington State and the 16th District. I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone for your opening statements. We're going to get to the question portion now. We're going to try to get to 5 questions each. They'll all be the same. And we'll prioritize audience questions. So if you have a question out there from the audience, I'll certainly prioritize that over anyone that I may have. So just make sure that you get to some of our volunteers that are out there. The first one is from the audience, but it's one that I wanted to ask as well, so I'll expound a little bit on sort of my question that I have and then let the audience question carry it. Mental health across the state is fragmented, disjointed, needs a major overhaul. Our jails are filled with the mentally ill who are not receiving vital services, especially in crisis response in my time here in Central Washington. In March, I covered the case of Mark Moreno. He was a young Benton County resident who died inside the Benton County Jail. His family desperately sought mental help for Mark before he was arrested. Ultimately, he died inside the Benton County Jail. Benton County Sheriff, since that time, on multiple occasions, has begged that they get better crisis response and that his jail is becoming a ward for the mentally ill. So how do we avoid senseless deaths like Mark Moreno's from happening? And the audience member has asked, what is your strategy for the challenge concerning the mentally ill in the criminal caseload? Mr. Palmer.
Thank you. I am proud to go first on this one. Although I'm an engineer, it's not my area of expertise. One of my skills is to be able to listen to groups and use the expertise that's happening in our community. In this case, our experts are recommending a couple changes to how we handle these sorts of things. The first is, some of you may be aware of something called the Utah model, where we bring housing to people with addiction and mental illness first, and then we work on the addiction and mental problems. This helps stabilize people. This is not the kind of thing we've been doing. It's just one way to move our issues forward. So there are a lot of things that we can work on this. I will participate in hearings and continue to listen and figure out what we can do as a group. We in Walla Walla are working towards a very large, we have what are called a coalition that is working on these issues, and this is the one of the emerging strategies that we're using. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jenkins.
Okay, yes. Well, I've worked in the community for about 30 years, and with that, I've really realized what the value of partnerships are. And I really think that this is something that is just waiting for partnerships to happen locally, but then statewide as well. And when I am elected, I'll happily co-write any legislation that's going to take away what's happening here, because it's as we all know, they just don't have a chance. If they don't have housing and they don't have any place to go and there's no money that's appropriated for them, something has to be done. So partnerships and community is where I would go.
Thank you. Mr. Rude.
First off, I'd like to just say that this is definitely not a partisan issue, and it shouldn't be. I do believe that mental health issues oftentimes can be tied to other societal issues like homelessness, criminal activity, and we need to make sure that when an individual is arrested and that they're receiving a mental health evaluation in a timely manner. So we don't need to be housing our mentally ill patients or individuals who are experiencing those issues in an incarceration situation. It's just not appropriate. It's not best for the individual. It's not the responsible thing to do as a society. So I do think that being proactive and addressing mental health issues on the front end ultimately will be more efficient than trying to address them in the long run. As a fiscal conservative, I think that's the most fiscally responsible way to address the situation as well.
Thank you very much. Ms. Francic.
Thank you. You know, the state used to be a lot more involved in mental health, and I don't know if it was 25 years ago or so, but they started cutting the number of beds that they had and the funding they had. And local communities at that time begged them not to do that because they said they were ill-equipped to deal with mentally ill patients. They did not have the funding to deal with mentally ill patients, and they predicted that what we would see is mentally ill patients ending up in jails. So what we see today is exactly what we thought was going to happen. This is something that we really do have to consider carefully. We care about the people in our community. Many of us have people in our families that have a mental illness. Not all the people that we have mental illnesses have insurance. It's not going to be intuitive to tell people that we need to up the amount of money spent so that we can cover mental illness, but if you look at the amount of dollars that are being spent in the jail system right now and you have a shift to preventative care, I think you will find that it isn't as expensive as it currently is for us. Also, Pasco has recently been in the headlines. You have heard about the Zambrano shooting. It was a terrible tragedy for his family, but that is an individual that was very ill. He had drug issues and he had mental issues. He did not have the help he needed, and it has cost the Pasco taxpayers quite a number of dollars because we are facing lawsuits, and that is not humane treatment for our society, and it also is not cost-effective for our citizens. Seattle has taken an approach where they are actually housing people that are alcoholic, and they have had some success with that. They found it's cheaper than having people in emergency rooms. So I think there are a lot of models out there we can consider.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards.
As everybody said, this has been a real problem. And I understand just recently, in fact, I believe this last week, that at the county level, Benton and Franklin commissioners have decided that they are going to privatize, make a contract, can't even talk today, sign a contract with a private organization to assist with crisis response here in Benton and Franklin counties. I believe that we need to look at that from a state level. when we have a mandate from the state Supreme Court that we have to fully fund education, which we need to fully define it first, we still need to, where are we going to come up with the money? I think privatizing or working with partnerships is a very good idea, because this can't go on the way it has been. But I don't believe it's the state's job to fully fund that. I think we need to look and be very creative, allowing faith-based organizations and private organizations to come in and lend us a hand with this.
Thank you very much. That is question one. Question two also comes from the audience. Certainly, the 16th Legislative District, it stretches a wide swath. You've got a lot of different type of folks in here. You have urban, rural issues, cultural diversity. So a lot of things that go on in this district. It's a really unique place in central Washington. So the question is this: what is a core issue that unites the 16th Legislative District, and how do you plan to act on that? Mr. Jenkins, you're first.
Well, there's one, and that's transportation between the two. It would be really nice if there can be a 4-lane highway to Walla Walla. And I really think that that's something that, that needs to be done. And I will work with that. Also, there's gang problems. Let's face it, we have to work at alleviating the problems that we have in our community. What I found in the in Prosser was that we were afraid what was going on in Grandview, and it was coming our way from Sunnyside, Grandview, Yakima. We got a hold of the Boys and Girls Club, and we were able to start a Boys and Girls Club within 2.5 months. We raised $80,000, and now the kids have a safe place to go. And I think it starts with that type of environment, to where they're out. When they're out of school, they're in someplace good for them. So, to me, I think the relationship with gangs and roads and transportation are two of the biggest things.
Thank you. Mr. Rood.
Thanks for the question. I would say that education is probably the most uniting issue. That's something that affects every single person and every single family. Whether you're a grandparent or a child, the public education is going to be an important part of that person's life. So I mentioned this a little bit in my opening, but I'd just like to expound on that. I believe that the education needs to be looked at in maybe a more broad approach. Early learning is something that's very important. We need to make sure that kids are ready to succeed when they enter the K-12 system, and which ultimately studies have shown result in increased success in the K-12 system. So again, an example of being proactive. Also, higher education, taking a broader view of that. I see higher education as more than just a college experience. It's certainly very important for a lot of people, 4 years, 6 years, but there are also other programs that are vocational in nature. And I mentioned apprenticeship programs earlier. My brother, for example, is an electrical apprentice right now. And these are careers that, or industries that are not going away anytime, ever. Plumbing, electrical work, welding, those kinds of agriculture, mechanics. So we just need to make sure that our students are successful in that experience and prepared to succeed in life.
Thank you. Ms. Francic.
Summarize the question again.
Yes. What is a core issue that unites the 16th Legislative District, and how do you plan to act on that?
Well, I would tell you, I think the core issues that unite us are local government. Do our services work? Are our roads in good shape? Does our water, is it clean and is it drinkable? Is our sewer functioning? And that's why I think that my skills are so uniquely suited to represent you, because I have 19 years of experience in making that happen in Pasco. Education is also definitely a core experience. All of our children go to school, so that is essential. And then, because we are an agricultural community, being able to move our products to the ports and out into the world where they are marketed is absolutely critical to our economy. So those are the three issues that I think bring all three regions together. They impact each of us every single day, and I am uniquely qualified to address them.
Ms. Edwards.
Well, it is kind of a toss-up. I mean, there are definitely some things that I would like to see happen. I do believe that education, as an educator, it is very important, and that is something we do have in common. A couple of years ago, I had the privilege of visiting Sharpstein School in Walla Walla, which is an amazing school. They have this dual language program, which was just amazing. And we were trying to bring some of those ideas back to Prosser, as that affects everybody in this state. I also am a big proponent that not every kid has to go to school, not university. We do need people. There's a shortage of engine mechanics. If we don't have roads or trucks on the roads, we're not going to have food in our stores. We're not going to have clothes on our back. So that is important. The education of our children. If you want to go get your hands dirty and be a grease monkey like my older brother, feel free. If you want to work for Boeing for 30 years like my little brother, that's great. If you want to become a hairdresser, I mean, somebody's got to do something with my hair. I think we shouldn't be pushing kids to go to college. Once you have everybody go to college and everybody has a degree, it becomes worth less. Not worthless, but worth less. And so I think that's a big uniting factor for our state, and we need to really start doing good things, better things in education for our students.
Thank you. Mr. Pomeranning.
Thank you, Michael. I'm going to address two things that I not only believe in and like this question for, but explain what kind of person I am. I am a person who does things. In this case, the first is transportation. As some others have mentioned, I believe that transportation ties our district together, that we depend on each other. I'm not only a member of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is semi-local, but the Rural Transportation Planning Organization, which covers the county, and the Good Roads Association, which covers our entire region. For example, the work that's going on at Benton City right now. A little piece of that was helped with the lobbying of the Good Roads Association. I am proud to be part of these groups and doing something. The second is, let's just talk about current events, all the things going on with the police and the controversy that we've had in our nation that exists tonight. Our council, met with our police chief on Monday. We talked about some of these things. We have talked about them before. There's a certain amount of controversy associated with that. And I'm missing my city council meeting tonight, but we are voting on whether we will create a special investigations unit to tie all of our communities together from Prosser to Dayton. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to question number 3. Mr. Rood will be the first to answer this. Many of you are involved in politics currently in a very diverse areas, Prosser, Walla Walla, City of Pasco, and I'm sure you guys are all intimately familiar with the City of Yakima. It was sued by the ACLU because it was proven that their hybrid city council voting system was in violation of the Federal Voting Rights Act. And right now, Pasco is actually in talks with the ACLU about a potential lawsuit right now if they don't change their voting system. Do you believe that all cities should implement district-based elections as opposed to a hybrid system?
There was a bill in the last session called the Voting Rights. It was a state-based Voting Rights Act. I'm definitely open to solutions that increase fairness. I just think that we need to be really careful that we're not creating divisiveness in attempting to solve those problems. That particular act appeared to be creating district boundaries based on race, and I'm not sure that's the best choice. Obviously, the state and local governments must comply with federal law and court orders. So that's very important. But as far as district-based voting, I'm not sure, honestly. I'm not sure if that's the proper way to proceed at this point.
Thank you. Ms. Francic.
Thank Thank you. I'm going to have to be careful in my remarks because we do have an ongoing discussion with the ACLU. But let me talk about what Pasco's current system is. Currently, there are 4 seats up 1 year, and then 2 years later, there are 3 seats up. 2 of the districts are heavily Hispanic. So if the Hispanic voters turn out, they can control that district. Every time there is a city council election, there is an open seat, so anybody can run for it. We have listened to our Hispanic constituency. They have asked us to look at having 7 districts instead of 5. We are considering this. We actually went to the state and asked them if they would give us an exception, because by state law, we do not have that option at this point in time. We were, well, we weren't denied, but there were several decisions that came down that did not leave the county election people comfortable in putting that on the ballot. So we made the effort, but we were unable to do so. I think that Mr. Rood has a very good point, though, that we have to be very careful not to create more divisions among our populace. In Pasco, you're a Pasco resident, and we're trying to represent everyone. That is really important. I would say that when you look at the numbers, the people who are voting are the people who are determining who wins, and not everyone votes.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards.
This is something that we've experienced in Prosser as well. In Prosser, we are an at-large. The city council come from at-large. We do not have districts. We have 6 council members and then 1 mayor who is elected by the populace. In this letter that we got a couple weeks ago from the actually USDA, they were saying that in 2015 we were not diverse enough as a council. I am now the only woman on the council, and we have 1 Hispanic man on the council. Still not quite the percentage that they'd like to see, but we're working at it. Again, it's people who are interested in politics that tend to run for city council and mayor positions. So I think the way Yakima did it, the way I understand, is that they divided up Yakima into districts, but they were not based on race. It was just based on numbers. They had equal population in every district. And in fact, the woman who was mayor there lives in a mostly white neighborhood in her district. And so, you know, I don't think that that's such a bad idea. I think when you gerrymander, when you try and divide it by race, I think that's a problem. But in Prosser, I live a block away from my stepfather, who's also on council. So we're overly represented in my neighborhood, and there are some neighborhoods that don't have anybody. So if we are very careful in how we define what a district entails, I think that would be an okay thing to do.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pomeranian.
Thank you. Again, I like this question. When we looked at what was going on up the road, we are an at-large council, like I believe Pasco, but we got together offline and decided, and I appointed a committee to look at this. What we find is we occasionally have racial balance, but what we also have is this 60-year-old retired values group. And so we're going to look at how we create a division, how we run an election. We have the 3 council people that are on this, and we have invited in some social scientists to help that group, and they are going to present their findings to our council in a couple months. And so we will have a report, and we will move forward so that we don't experience any of the criticism about this. So we're doing something, and I'm proud of it.
Thank you. Mr. Jenkins.
Yes. You know, it really has created a lot of hardships, not only in Yakima, because I know Yakima, I don't know if they became a better city council or not over what happened. There certainly were resentments that were involved. I'd like to keep government as local as possible, to let the local governments make what decisions that they can. put together, like Alan was saying, put together partnerships, community people that can help resolve a problem. I truly believe in fair representation. Everybody should be represented fairly, but everybody should vote. And I think that's a lot of it. If we can get voting members, I mean, people in the community to vote, and for what's presented to them, that's going to alleviate a lot of the problem. So, as far as at-large councils and that type of thing, of course, there's a lot of them out there. Do we need to have areas like we do in our school district? Areas seem to work, but then what we do, the whole community votes. So you might represent your area, but the whole community will vote for you. So, and that seems to work. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Going to move on to question number 4. Ms. Francic, you'll be the first to answer this. This is an issue that's been over and over in the news, and most recently, certainly, policing issues. In the last few years, we've seen a number of deaths of citizens at the hands of police officers, many of these incidents being caught on camera in our digital age, yet we see how difficult it is to prosecute an officer, and especially in the state of Washington, given the wording and other circumstances related to our justifiable homicide statute. Initiative 873, it aims to amend existing state law because it says that our state law is the most regressive justifiable homicide statute in the nation. After hearing all this, what are your thoughts on this particular law and the current climate of mistrust between police and the community that it is protecting and serving?
Well, first of all, I would say that I don't think we have a mistrust in Pasco between our law enforcement officers and our citizens. We have taken a community policing approach. Our crime rate is down 83% from when I first took office in 1996. When we had a series of shootings, we actually had six deaths, and the one that, of course, rose most to the public attention was the Zambrano shooting, which I have to tell you, I was in Florida at the time visiting my son, and when I saw the video, I was just absolutely horrified. But we immediately turned all of that over to an independent group that would gather evidence and take a look at all of that. And when all of the facts came in, it was not a cut and dried situation, and it wasn't what we saw in that very short video clip. There was an awful lot more that had gone on prior to what we all saw and were horrified by. I think that our police officers have to have training, which means that you have to have money to have them trained. We've been asking the state to open up more seats so that we can get our police officers in. Right now, we have several officers that we've hired them, but we can't use them because they don't have seats. They haven't been trained and certified. But I think that we need to continue this dialogue with our community. I think we need to continue our community policing so that our citizens know who our police officers are, and we really need to address mental health issues because a lot of times when you see violence, it is a direct result of mental illness or drug addiction.
Thank you very much. Ms. Edwards.
Well, again, I'm on the city council in Prosser, and our police chief shows up at all of our city council meetings and reports on the happenings in the police department. And we are a small town, and we don't have a lot of issues like some of the larger cities do around us. However, we also have adopted a community policing co-op type of thing. And every time I see our police all over the place, they greet people, they walk down the sidewalk. Our community really we have great respect for our police officers. With all of the things that are in the news right now, where everybody's kind of on this high alert that policemen are racist and they're always going to shoot, if you even look like you're going to reach for a gun. But I'm looking over here at this poster that's here in this hall right now, and it says everything matters. And what lasting memory are you creating now? And I think that most, if not all of our policemen have that in mind. They're not They're not the bad guys that people make them out to be. And so I need to be more familiar with the RCWs that deal with this and with the Constitution, how our state Constitution deals with this, to be all honest with you. But I think right now everybody's on heightened alert, and I think sometimes that just tends to create more tension and creates more push to sometimes do things that we shouldn't. Make haste slowly has always been my motto.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pomerani.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Michael. Again, this is something that we have acted upon. One of the first things we did was, for the last couple of years, we have put policemen on the street, and we call them ambassadors, young people who meet with a lot of people who have issues, and it keeps things much calmer when you have people on the street instead of just in cars. The second thing is there are big signs around town with my name on it. People know I'm running for office. I have discussed with both our chief of police and our sheriff that they would like to see body cams. There are problems with doing that for a small municipality. Some problems with the Public Records Act where we can't handle the administrative burden of a video record, but our police believe that it can improve our relationship with citizens if everybody knows and believes that we're always being recorded when we're interacting with the police. I believe that's true too. I will co-sponsor legislation to help that to happen. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Jenkins.
Well, let me first say that the police officers, police departments should be commended for what they do for us, because they're the ones that keep us safe and give us our liberty. If we have to protect them, and too often, way too often, it just irritates me. It's political, and it's a continuation of it, and it's something that it's there. So what happens is the community, they're hearing what they're hearing, and they're hearing a lot of what they're hearing, and it might not be the right thing. And we have to understand the community. We have to understand why they're thinking what they're thinking. And so that's where things like building partnerships comes along, coalitions, so we can bring the communities together, the law enforcement and the communities, and then create values. If we can get the kids as they're going up, and I keep going back to the Boys and Girls Club and through schools and that type of thing, we really have to create values, but it starts at home. So if we can get the kids started off on the right foot at home and get parental involvement, it's going to help a lot of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rood.
Thanks for the question. I'd also like to commend law enforcement. It's a very difficult job, and I respect law enforcement very much for the work they do for us. Also like to add, I do believe that body cams are probably the biggest tool to help in these situations. It not only increases accountability for the officer, but also increases accountability for the individual who's having that encounter with the police officer. So if we can create that accountability on both sides of that interaction, I think that's very important. The Public Records Act hasn't been updated in a long time, and the biggest roadblock to instituting these body cams, I believe, is probably the Public Records Act. So what we need to do is take into account privacy on the part of individuals and make sure that we're not having officers. We need to have rules for officers so we're not recording interactions that are not appropriate to be recorded with the police officer. But also who has access to those recordings and how they're stored, if they're stored in a financially viable way. I believe that's really important as well. So amendments to the Public Records Act that can ensure that this is a financially viable option for us, I think is the best approach. Also, the training slots that were mentioned, I think is very important. And that's something that's hard to do if we're pledging never to vote for any kind of a tax. Those things cost money, and it's for public safety, and I support that.
Thank you. Let's move on to question number 5. Ms. Edwards, you'll be the first to answer this. And this will be our final question unless we want another question. We've got time for it, or from the audience, certainly. I'm posing this question on immigration because we do live in such a diverse area, and I think everybody at this seat has dealt with this issue. Given the U.S. Supreme Court of the United States is deadlocked on President Obama's DACA and DAPA programs, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals is DACA, and DAPA stands for Deferred Action of Parental Accountability. So what would your plan be, at least from a state level, to deal with unauthorized immigrants who are vital to the economy and really needed in this region?
That is a difficult issue. I have a classroom of 20 students. Last year I did, and I had 15 of those were Hispanic. And I had one little girl come up to me, she's 6 years old, and she goes, "I don't want Donald Trump to be president because he's going to send my mom back." Well, that's heartbreaking. And from a 6-year-old, it's a sticky situation, but I do think you are right. We have people who come up here, and they are vital to our economy, especially our agricultural economy. How do we handle that? I don't think we need to pick them all up and send them back home on a bus. I don't think that's an option. I also don't believe that full amnesty is also an option. What I believe is that if they have been here and they have not broken the law, other than the law of coming here illegally, I believe that perhaps we could, there could be a community service option, or because not everybody can afford to pay off a fine. There are some way, I think we need to find a workable solution to allow these people to stay who are vital to our, maybe, we can fast track paperwork somehow that we can help them become productive citizens and not harm their families, not separate families. I think that's just, we need to really look at options, how we can institute some sort of, I don't want to say punishment, that sounds really harsh, but some way to hold them accountable for breaking the law without throwing them in jail or sending them back.
Thank you. Mr. Pomerani.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm an engineer. This is not my area of expertise, and I will use the same process in the legislature that I have used as the mayor of Walla Walla. When I don't know things, we have hearings, we pull experts in, we work through the problem as a large team. So I won't say today, I know the answer to the complexity of this problem. I have great empathy. I have Latino relatives right here in Pasco. I have similar relatives in the Walla Walla area. We need to work through this. We need to work through it as a culture. We need to work through it as a state. There is more issues coming with all the controversy and the instability of South America right now. So it's something we will be addressing in the next few years. I am proud to say I will go to the legislature, be part of a team, work on this with the other legislators, and we will come up with a citizen and legislative solution to some of these complex problems. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Jenkins.
Yes, this is a tough one. It's mostly a federal issue. The state is certainly impacted. Our state is by some of the issues created by whether they're illegal aliens or whether they're unregistered or whatever. But the reality in our district is that the farmers need the labor. And it seems that nobody else wants to do the work. So from there, where do you go? And I agree with Alan on this one. I really think that there has to be a lot more discussion that's given before you can say, oh, send them all back home, because what would that do to our economy? We have to figure out something where we can get everybody registered, the ones that are here, and then I would hate to think what would happen to our economy if we didn't have people to pick our fruits and vegetables and grapes and whatever else. So that's our dilemma, and it is a big dilemma, and it's going to take more than my brain to figure it out. And we put together smart people and work with them and go for there. So thank you.
Mr. Root.
Thank you. So this really is a federal issue. Immigration policy isn't something that the state legislature is authorized to address. What the legislature does deal with legislatively that relates to this issue, I think, is the availability of state resources to people who are here illegally. I would like to just point out regarding education, the state does have an obligation to provide ample provision for the education of all children in this state. So it is important that children that are brought here receive a quality education because they're going to be members of this society. And again, as a fiscally conservative, this is an example of being proactive and making sure that kids are reaching adulthood ready to succeed. So there are services at the state level that do need to be offered, but the federal government does need to take action on this issue. So it does affect the states, and the federal government needs to get a handle on illegal immigration. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Francic.
Thank you. Well, my family are survivors of what is now called the English genocide of the Irish. We came to this country because we were starving to death, and it was our only choice, and America welcomed us. We had a lot of hard jobs. We were miners, we were butchers, we were gold miners, we're farmers. I don't know why the United States has such a broken federal policy on immigration, but that needs to be fixed, and there's nothing I can do about it as a state legislator. However, I do agree with what Mr. Root said about all of the children that are coming in here deserve an education. And we can't say that they don't, because A, it's our job to educate them, and B, their parents are paying taxes while they're here. One of the things that I would urge our federal legislators to do is open the borders back up. It used to be, and we saw this in the school system a lot, that people would come up and follow the crops and then they would go home. But they don't have that option anymore, because once you're here, it's really hard to get back and forth across that border. So we have made it very difficult for people who might have only wanted to come for a short season to come and go back home and return to their loved ones. It is a broken system. I cannot fix it as a state legislator because I will not have that ability, but it is certainly something I would support our federal colleagues fixing.
Thank you. We do have time for one more question. Mr. Pomrenning, I'll start with you. This is from our audience. For the 9th and 16th, well, obviously both, how can we create a fair tax in our state for everyone? It's a pretty broad question. That's what it said, tax, right?
That's a pretty open question.
Yeah, it's pretty wide open
I
there.
think what that is suggesting is that there should be an income tax. I will point out that first, the Constitution limits income taxes to 1%. So if we suggest that there should be an income tax, we're implying that somehow that would be graduated across the income levels, when in fact we're prevented from doing that. So an income tax at this time is not a viable option for our state. So how do we do it? I believe the major issue that's driving this question, of course, is how do we solve the education funding issue? And really, if we pay the same rate for every household in the state, if we level and equalize the tax, that is fair based on the level and property values that we have. So I think what's driving the question here is how do we solve this major problem with funding, sustainable funding in education? We can do it with the plan that's already been started in the legislature, and I will participate in that process. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Jenkins.
Yes, I certainly do not want any state income tax, and I'll be against in whatever form. I agree a lot that what is driving this is the fact with levy swap, levy equalization, that type of thing, because it's a big burden with the McClary decision. My only concern to that, it will alleviate a lot of it because the taxes will be coming, and I'm for it in the right form. The taxes will be coming from the communities that are like, say, Pasco. They raise X amount of dollars. They send it to the state. But what happens if they had a good levy and they were making more money off of the levy than what the state gives them back? And then in talking to the superintendent of our school district, his concern is, and other superintendents is, what stipulations will be put on the money when it does come back from the state legislature after it's been through that other layer? And it may not be able to be used for what school districts can use the levy money for, which would create havoc with local school districts. I am for a solution. I think the solution is there if it's put together in the right way. The legislature's working hard at that, and that's something that I would love to get involved with because I'm passionate about it.
Thank you, Mr. Rude.
Thank you. So typically, taxes in some way, shape, or form are going to have a negative impact. That's why it's important to keep taxes as low as possible and provide services efficiently. About 52% of the state's operating budget or revenues come from the retail sales and use tax, about 20% from the B&O tax, 11% from state property tax, and then 17% from a variety of other taxes, including the retail or the real estate excise tax, liquor tax, cigarettes, marijuana, a pretty long list. The B&O tax is, I believe, is probably the most unfair of those taxes. The retail sales tax is probably one of the most fair taxes. I support taxes typically. A good example would be the gas tax. It's for a dedicated purpose. It taxes the users of the system. So use taxes are generally a more fair tax, and those are the taxes that I lean towards supporting most. There's something called a fair tax at the federal level, a proposal. That's a federal issue related to income tax. But I think it's important to make sure that any tax that we're supporting is most fair in the way that that it collects from individuals.
Thank you, Ms. Francic.
I believe the purpose of government is to provide a platform so that we, the citizens, can come together and purchase services that we can't individually purchase. So for instance, a city road is $1 million a mile. I cannot buy a road on my own. But if I work collectively with my fellow residents, we can have city streets that will take me to and from work and the grocery store. You have to have taxes, and you have to have a revenue stream that will not only build those things that you deem good for society, like clean drinking water and sewers that work, but you have to have maintenance funding. And that means when you have an individual who comes through and starts carving things out, like I-695, let's go ahead and cap the property tax at 1%. Without any regard for the fact that we are bargaining with our police and fire officers for raises of 2% and 3%, you're going to get squeezed, and pretty soon your maintenance is going to change. If you have somebody who says, oh, you know what, we don't really need to pay those car taxes, you only need $30, which is not a number that has anything to do with the reality of what it costs to drive on a street. If you vote for that, then you're forcing the government, and you're forcing cities and local communities to choose other sources. Pasco at this point in time has moved everything to sales tax. Sales tax is not fair, and it is very volatile. So when the economy goes down, so does our system. So I guess I'd tell you in conclusion, I'm willing to look at everything, but we need to start having adult conversations about taxes and talk about the value we're getting for our dollar, because taxes bring us a lot of services that we want and we need.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards.
Well, I do agree that we have plenty of taxes in this state, and we have the dubious distinction of being number 2 in the nation in gas taxes, both combined federal and state. We're right behind Maryland, and I think they moved into first place, but we have these distinctions in our state of having very high taxes, higher than many other states. You know, we keep coming back to education and the McCleary decision where we have to fully fund education. First, before you do anything, we need to fully and specifically define what basic education is. Right now, it's this big nebulous thing that nobody really has a great definition for. Is it K-12? Okay, so it's K-12. I get that, kindergarten through 12th grade. But what within that are we paying for? I mean, what are we supposed to fully fund? Are we fully funding teacher salaries? Are we funding the supplies in the schools? Are we funding, you know, I know that I get $250 a year to spend in my classroom. That's an arbitrary amount that was set by my principal because she has a certain budget and for her school, and she gets to decide who gets what. I think before we do anything, we need to fully define what it is we're expected to pay for. And I think we can do it with existing taxes, but we have to fully define it first.
Thank you all for your answers. We're going to have closing statements, and Mr. Jenkins, we'll start with you.
Very good. Again, I would like to thank all of you for coming today to listen to our differing opinions. I live the issues of small business, education, and agriculture through my own businesses and my position on the school board. I know that what needs to be done to create jobs and to improve our children's education. I am familiar with our farmers' needs because I'm in agriculture myself. I have 30 years of community service and have been able to thrive in the private sector my entire life. We need to elect a candidate with experience and leadership skills to represent the voters of our 16th district. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rude.
Thank you for the opportunity. I would just like to kind of throw in why I'm running for this office. Ultimately, I would like to be able to have the opportunity to make a positive difference in individuals' lives and also be an advocate for our small business owners who ultimately are the backbone of this economy. Most of the businesses in this country are classified as small businesses. I do believe that it's really important to work in a bipartisan fashion if we expect to get anything done in Olympia. I've been there working for Representative Walsh and listening to constituents of this district for the last 2 sessions, and believe through that experience I'd be able to hit the ground running as a freshman member. So through that experience, I believe that I'd effectively represent this district. I've also, I mentioned bridge building that I think is very important. I've been endorsed by former Secretary of State Sam Reed, over 10 legislators, including all of the ranking members for education-related committees, the League of Education Voters, and Public School Employees of Washington. Thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Ms. Francic.
Thank you. When you get your ballot, you will see that Rebecca Francic is running as a Democrat. Before you vote, I'm asking you to consider our region does not have a single voice that represents our needs to the Democratic caucus in Olympia. Consider the disadvantage of having all our representation restricted to one party. I don't know about you, but I spread my risk. In the past, legislators without local government experience have hurt our towns and cities by diverting the Public Works Trust Fund into the general fund, depriving our communities of low-interest loans for local infrastructure needs. They have taken our share of liquor revenues, depriving our towns of funding that we count on for local public safety needs. If you believe that local government experience will benefit you at the state level, vote for Rebecca Francic. If you believe that infrastructure corridors are critical to our economy, vote for Rebecca Francic. And if you believe a strong education system makes us stronger as a community and as a state, vote for Rebecca Francic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Ms. Edwards.
I'd like to say thank you again for having us all here today. It's been a real privilege being able to talk to you. Again, I would like to let you know I was a single mom. I raised 2 children successfully. I have a wonderful grandson who lives in Spokane I don't get to see nearly enough. I served in the Marine Corps. I have a business degree and worked in business for 25 years. I transferred then into teaching. I am an elected city council person. I used to change the oil in my car and change the points and plugs. I've done it all, ladies and gentlemen. I have 3 brothers. I am known in my school district and in my building that I am the one to come talk to you if you need something done and something fixed. I have people all the time calling me before city council meetings saying, hey, I need to talk to you about this. I have an ear. I talk to anybody. It doesn't matter what your label is. It doesn't matter. The other thing I'd like to remind people that in the state legislature right now, in the House, men outnumber women 2 to 1. So it wouldn't hurt to have a woman's voice in the legislature. Thank you for your time, and I'd appreciate your vote.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pomerantny.
Thank you, Michael. Again, I think part of our process in the campaigning is to create relationships, to understand the issues. I'd like to thank Mr. Felix Gonzalez? Vargas. I scribbled too much. I want to create a relationship with the Latino Coalition. I'd like to use that when I get to the legislature, if you can help me understand some of the issues that you're representing. I'd also like to thank the women voters, and I will represent your issues as well. This is a representative position, and we are touring the area in a campaign to help understand what the issues are. So I thank you for inviting me to Pasco tonight. I will work hard for you as I have done in Walla Walla. I will do the same in Olympia. Thank you.
I want to thank you all. We have some really strong candidates up here, so it's going to be a really tough decision. So let's give them a round of applause for coming up here and sharing their ideas. We're going to take a short break right now, and the folks for position 2 are going to come up here. So take a break, relax, and we'll be right back.